Would Stan Edgar see the potential for profit when he looks at Saitama? What hashtag could Ashley create to market Pig God on social media? Will Vought think the risks of using Puri Puri Prisoner are worth the trouble when he's in the news for another scandal? In The Boys, heroes aren't judged by the multi-billion-dollar superhero entertainment conglomerate just by their ability to fight crime. No, they're judged on optics, social media scores, and profit margins too. Today, we'll find out just how valuable some of the One Punch Man's heroes may be to the pretentious standards of Vought International. Quick note, this tier list is going to be on an individual inclusion basis rather than all of them being there at once, and we'll try to not put as much focus on the imbalance of power scaling since we know the One Punch Man verse is a lot stronger for the most part. Anyway, grab your warm bottle of milk and let's get through the tierings. Liability, for the heroes who Vought may not think are worth the trouble. They may be strong and they may be heroic, but something about them just doesn't translate well to the cameras, the public appearances, or the word on social media. If you're a danger to Vaught's reputation or revenue, it's time to go and do your hero work elsewhere. Useful is for heroes who may be competent or good for certain tasks, however Vought thinks they lack something to make them stand out to the public, or simply don't meet their criteria for stardom. Marketable is the next step up, a hero who can do the business on the streets and in the studio, the type of person they'll put on advertisements, give brand deals to, or wheel around to garner public approval. And if you're someone who'd excel at all of that, then the 7 may just come knocking. These heroes might not even necessarily be that strong as seen by heroes such as the Deep or Translucent's involvement in the 7, yet if Vought thinks they can make big money and even bigger waves with you because of a special something, you may end up on the biggest superhero team in the world. And finally, we have Superstar. This is the top level, and it's not necessarily above the 7, nor does someone here have to be on the 7, but it implies that Vought thinks you are a golden ticket to earning lots of money through lots of avenues, and all while being very powerful at the same time. Think of this like initial season 1 Homelander fame, where their popularity and influence can even directly impact the entire company itself. It's hard to decide on who to choose first, but that inspires me to choose the S-Class hero who has the hardest skin. Flashy Super Alloy Darkshine, I mean. If you got that joke, or didn't get that joke, think of it as a litmus test for how well versed you are in One Punch Man community discourse. Darkshine is a charismatic hero who finds it pretty easy to get along with nearly anybody from what we've seen, and we know from experience that he's a highly inspirational figure and role model for many citizens in his verse, even going so far as to inspire not just legions of fans, but upcoming heroes too. Considering he's a proven hit with the fans and has a tremendous look to him, it's incredibly easy to see that Vought would think of Darkshine as a very easy man to market. They'd use him for any opportunities in fitness marketing or reality TV, and would probably even use him in action-focused movies if he proved he could act. Naturally, even though he's a genuinely good guy, Darkshine would probably be loving all this attention, but it doesn't stop there for him in Vought. By default, Darkshine would have a specialty attached to him to give him that extra special bump, his durability. Among all of what I already said, Vought would have a field day in exploiting his apparent invincibility, thus marketing him as the world's toughest man, or Mr. Unbreakable, or something along those lines. And it's because of his immense power, famous defense, and high marketability that we can start strong and put Super Alloy Darkshine on the 7 tier. Pig God won't be as popular to the general public, and not as profitable to Vought either, but it doesn't mean they won't find a way to get the most out of him. I can imagine Stillwell or Edgar tasking Ashley with a means to make their newest edition all the talk, and that's how we'd end up with social media hashtags like #FatIsStrong or #FatSavesLives. Vought would absolutely be the type of company to tap into the obese market and make Pig God the #1 hero for foodies and those on the heavier side. Put a weekly slot on Vaught's programming for a Pig God mukbang, will ya? I don't think they'd want him front and center of their optics, yet with his effectiveness, kind nature, and easiness to interact with, Pig God would definitely end up in the marketable tier as someone who is both good at their job and adds a worthwhile avenue of diversity for Vought International to eat up. No pun intended. We've been hearing about how marketable Pig God and Darkshine could be though, but what about Metal Bat? Well, not so much. Foul-mouthed and easy to rile up, Metalbat's going to do worse on this tier list, more for his inability to listen to what selfish executives are going to ask for. We saw in the manga how Metalbat refused to sit still at headquarters and protect only the rich when they asked him, and that exact attitude is not going to go down well with the suits of Vought. They'll want him to do things he won't do, say things he won't say, and prioritize them in moments of need when he'll instead put his efforts into protecting the little guy first. To put it in a nutshell, Metalbat will be a handful for management to deal with, and they'll never be able to completely move him around the chessboard the way they want. And due to his sometimes spiky personality, there's going to be a lot of situations for him to blow up and cause bad press for. I can imagine him blaming Vought for some situations if reporters interview him spontaneously after a dangerous situation, or outright saying on camera that more resources should be spent in public areas Vought are trying to avoid doing. Essentially, Metalbat could be a shareholder's nightmare. However, while it sounds like I'm about to put him in liability, I'm actually putting him in useful. He'd be a reliable hero who solves problems with a swing of his bat, and as long as Vought don't shine a spotlight on him or make a Metalbat podcast, he'll knuckle down and keep crime stats low in the background away from their more commercial endeavors. While Metalbat dodges the liability tier, this next hero might not. Putty Putty Prisoner would be a PR nightmare for Vought. Despite being a strong hero, Vought would be paying out the nose for lawsuit settlements, social media scrubbing, and journalist blackmail just to keep Putty Putty Prisoner out of the headlines for the umpteenth time. If Vought were to utilize this guy regularly, they'd have influencers, news outlets, and perhaps even normal citizens calling them out on their questionable decision to let someone of his crimes represent their company. It has to be remembered after all that the world of the boys is nowhere near as cooked as the world of One Punch Man. In One Punch Man, you literally have monsters attacking various cities every day, so people and organizations are a lot more willing to let some of the things fly in order to protect humanity. But in the boys, no. They've got a lot of free time to worry about the minutiae of hero work, and Prisoner would be a reputational headache on a week-to-week basis regardless of how well he saves the day. Liability tier, because like all of Putty Putty Prisoner's victims, the Vought stock prices would be on bottom for all the scandals he'd cause. And while Prisoner would have Stan Edgar filing a restraining order on him for all Vought related enterprise, it's going to be the total opposite for our next hero, a My Mask. Do you have any idea how much Vought International would love a My Mask? A My Mask would be so beneficial for Vought that it would have Stan Edgar skipping around his office and doing one of those cheery heel click jumps like he's a kid who just won a golden ticket to Willy Wonka's chocolate factory. Here you have an incredibly powerful, intelligent and competent hero who not only excels in hero activity, but is also a wildly popular entertainer who can sing, dance and act. Not only can he clean up the streets with stylish efficiency, but he can mesmerize live crowds and TV audiences alike. Oh, and did I mention he's ridiculously good looking too, which pretty much puts all of the previous advantages mentioned on profit doubling steroids. A My Mask is media trained, fantastic in interviews, and most of all, serious in his approach to heroism, which essentially means as far as potential revenue is concerned, he's all upsides and no downsides. As a matter of fact, from what we know about a My Mask, it's likely that at some point or another, he'll work his way into a position of power and influence where he'll start calling the shots, because like we also know, there'll be a lot about the hero industry in the boys that a My Mask will want to change to suit his vision and preferences instead. It's superstar tier for a My Mask, because he would be a money-making machine for Vought through music, acting and whatever else, all while being a complete powerhouse who performs hero work to a high standard and boosts Vaught's image regularly through his celebrity image. Now, we all remember Girls Get It Done in the boys, but with Tatsumaki, it'd be Girl Gets It Done. Tatsumaki would be a little bit of a double-edged sword in the world of the boys. She'd certainly be very popular for her extraordinary power, great look, and consistent results, but her snappy personality, tendency for collateral damage, and hostility toward others would earn her numerous critics in return. I feel like Tatsumaki is a character who can fit nearly any single tier in this list depending on which angle you want to focus on, but I'll decide to put Stan Edgar's expertise into my decision here. If Edgar could make Homelander look like the greatest hero on Earth through his overall management back before things went off the rails, then I think he'd find a way to get the most out of Tatsumaki in the public eye while obscuring her brattier side from view. Edgar would likely realize through his interactions how much money and power Tatsumaki could bring Vought, while also realizing how much trouble and controversy she might cause too. He's a veteran of the game who knows all about what sells, what doesn't, and all of the factors between those two things which causes someone to be a hit or a miss. Whether he's hands-on or keeping an eye on things through delegates, Edgar will likely be able to channel Tatsumaki effectively through virtuous campaigns focusing on women empowerment and portraying her as an endearing but strong hero who he ensures never gets enough screen time or public interaction to show her actual brashness. Whether or not he could effectively keep her in line is another matter, but experience-wise, he'll know the play. Tatsumaki would certainly be a valuable asset to Vought, but too hard to contain, so I think she'd be in the marketable tier. Putting her in the 7 with all of that publicity would offer too much risk due to her personality, especially if they can't guarantee control of what she chooses to do or say, so Vought would likely try to maximize her in a more subtle way. And just quickly for the video skippers, yes, we know Tatsumaki solos the boys verse all at the same time. This isn't a strength-based tier list because I know some of you guys don't be listening to the tiering section before you start commenting. Unlike Tatsumaki, who has the ability to set the world alight with her powers, Moomin Rider is a lot more humble in both scale and nature. I think we'd see him doing the same kind of thing in this verse as he does in his own, riding around the place and helping those in need. Vought probably wouldn't be able to get much out of Moomin Rider from their own perspective. Ashley or some other soup handler would always be trying to pitch him something to try and build him to the next level. Hey Moomin Rider, the bicycle's not quite grabbing the public eye. How about a monster truck? Or pitching him a documentary called Keeping the Streets Safe with Moomin Rider. However, because the camera crew are slower than him, it'd come at the cost of him not being able to help people in time for a lot of incidents, and since Moomin Rider is as genuine as it gets, he'll just always decline any fancy upgrade or pretentious media skits they'll want to involve him in, because as we all know, Moomin Rider takes his role as a hero too seriously for any of that. With Vought unable to pull Moomin Rider in the direction they want, they'll likely just leave him to do all of his small scale stuff where he makes a difference out on the street and help the locals, which will probably turn him into something of a local celebrity. Useful tier for Moomin Rider, since Vought would know the streets are safer with him out there and he doesn't cause any scandals. Yet they also can't make much money off him or convince him to partake in their entertainment endeavors. And hey, before you bite my head off, remember I'm speaking for Vought International here. We all love Moomin Rider and know he's a superstar, but the likes of Edgar and Stillwell probably wouldn't care much. Alright, quick speed round before Saitama. Tank Top Master would be marketable. Vought International would see a surge in tank top sales, and you can bet a few bucks that his tank top obsessed charisma would be easy for minds like Edgar to capitalize on. No scandals, no drama, just insane strength and inspiration. However, I think they'd find him a little too boring and lacking flair to be on the 7. Flashy Flash, however, may make it into the 7. I can imagine him being something of a black noir type for their team. He's got a great look, he's incredibly skilled and strong, and he'd likely kill any of Vaught's criminal or terrorist enemies in covert operations, similar to how Noir does. Flash wouldn't do much media, but by appearance and style alone, I think he'd be off the charts in popularity, so Vought would use him in the 7 as a shiny toy to look at while making the most of him in undercover missions. Watchdog Man would be marketable because while they wouldn't be able to get him to do what they want him to do in terms of, well, nearly anything, he'd still be perched up in a designated city of his choosing that would remain completely and utterly devoid of any crime and danger thanks to his presence. Due to this, while Vought wouldn't be able to make him very effective in terms of media presence, I believe they'd instead go the other way and turn whatever area Watchdog Man resides into some kind of attraction. Instead of getting Watchdog Man to go to where they want, they'll portray the city he's in as a must-see place to visit, and make money off his reputation and popularity via the nearby locations, like Watchdog Man themed restaurants, places for kids, and things of that nature. But what about Saitama? What would a Stan Edgar do with a Saitama? Saitama. Tonight you'll be attending the red carpet for our new premiere, where you'll do 4 rounds of interviews, followed by a press conference in which you'll hit these pre-approved talking points regarding #FishArePeople2 from last week's scandal with the Deep. Yeah, I don't want to do that. I was just planning to stay home tonight. Well, you must. It's outlined as mandatory within page 7, line 5 of your contractual agreement. This isn't something you can refuse as per the legality of your employment. Ah, I see. I really don't have any interest in that though. I know. How about a new contract where I don't have to do those things? As you could have probably guessed, while Saitama would be an absolute goldmine for Vought in terms of sheer power, outside of that, there won't be very much to gain. Saitama has no true ego to exploit, nor would he ever do anything that he thinks doesn't suit him or isn't in the essence of being a hero. Saitama won't want to act in movies, peddle agendas, or play ball with slippery executives. He'll just want to be a hero for fun who happened to join Vought since covering the rent was getting harder and harder to do with every passing month. Vought would attempt to maximize Saitama all they could, and nobody would blame them, but it wouldn't take long before deadpan press conferences, missed interviews, and simply not playing the optics game the way Vought wants would make it clear that this bald-headed hero is not marketable at all. Even in One Punch Man, the Hero Association thinks he's plain ordinary in every sense of the word, despite having access to his physical exam stats. There's just nothing to work with, which is of course the beauty of how Saitama's character and power come together. Vought would quickly find out that they can't make Saitama the next Homelander, because they can't control him. They can't get him to do things he doesn't want to do, and quite frankly, they don't even know if this guy is going to show up to the places they instruct him to. All they do know is that when he's needed to save the day, he will be there. But knowing Vought, similar to how he's accused of stealing credit in One Punch Man, they might actually start trying to use Saitama's successes by attempting to play them off as victories for another hero, or heroes. If Edgar can't make Saitama the shiny champion of Vought, then perhaps he can redirect Saitama's strengths onto someone else and make out as if they are actually the strongest hero of all. Vought will probably even try to make out as if Saitama isn't even the strongest hero, because if he is, then their power over him lessens if the public knows he's stronger than even the 7 combined, and it would cause the ability to steer perception over someone they can't control out from their hands. There's a lot of different possibilities and fun turnouts, but to keep it short and sweet, I'm going to put Saitama in the useful tier. Vought would realize this deadpan, no personality appearing hero won't play well for the cameras and media appearances, but will seek to artificially create new or bolster current stars using his success. And Saitama probably won't care to any significant degree as long as he gets enough pay to cover his rent and grocery expenses. And as long as he doesn't find out Vought is doing anything questionable, of course. And that idea is kind of where I think King would come in if you introduce the two of them together in this scenario, unlike the others. Edgar using King as the outward presenting role of what Saitama is actually doing, kind of like in One Punch Man, but intentionally curated together by Edgar and Stillwell to maximize profits and influence. If King were a character on his own in The Boys though, with no Saitama to speak of, then that's another interesting one. I don't quite know how that one would go, but I want you to let me know in the comments. How would King operate in The Boys if there was no Saitama to fuel his gimmick? Would Homelander unknowingly take his place? Or would King's apparent power of luck manifest in a different way? Or would he have no such luck to speak of in this verse as an individual? Let me know in the comments. Thanks for watching, leave a like, and be sure to check out more videos on the channel.